Hello and welcome, dear listeners. This is Midnight Whispers AI01, and we're really, truly grateful to have you with us tonight.
It's great to be diving into another topic.
Absolutely. Whether you're new or you've been with us before, thank you for subscribing, for hitting that like button, sharing our deep dives, and especially, for leaving your thoughts in the comments.
Yeah, those comments are fantastic.
Yeah.
We really do read them.
We do. It means the world to us. And speaking of comments tonight, we'd really love to hear from you, because the topic we're exploring, well, it's one that many people claim to have witnessed, but very few can actually explain.
It's a deeply personal and often terrifying experience for many.
So we ask you, have you ever seen them? Those shadow people. Thousands of people across the world have reported encounters with these mysterious dark figures, often glimpsed just out of the corner of the eye,
That peripheral vision thing. Yeah.
Some say they vanish the moment you look directly at them. Others, they say the figures just stand there, motionless, observing.
Watching. That's a common theme.
If you've ever had an experience like that, or maybe know someone who has, please tell us your story in the comments. We read them, other listeners read them, and your truth, well, it might just help someone else who's gone through something similar and feels alone.
Sharing can be incredibly validating.
Exactly. So, as you might have guessed, tonight's deep dive here on Midnight Whispers AI01 is all about shadow people.
A truly fascinating and, frankly, disturbing phenomenon.
We've gathered a huge amount of data, eyewitness accounts, psychological theories, ancient folklore, even military and paranormal reports. It's quite a mix.
A really wide net, trying to understand this.
But before we begin, just a heads up, this is not a deep dive for the faint of heart. Some of the stories we'll share are genuinely unsettling, pretty terrifying, actually.
Yeah, listener discretion is probably advised for this one.
Definitely. So maybe turn down the lights, put your headphones on, get comfortable, but prepare for goosebumps.
Let's get into it.
Okay. As we delve into this whole enigma of shadow people, let's start with the basics, the core identity. When people recount these encounters, what do they actually see? What's the description?
Well, it's remarkably consistent, actually.
Yeah.
They are almost universally described as these profoundly dark silhouettes, like incredibly black.
Darker than just a regular shadow.
Oh, yeah. People often say darker than darkness itself, or like pitch black smoke. They seem to absorb light, creating this void-like presence.
Wow. And features.
Yeah.
Face, clothes.
That's the thing, typically. No discernible features, no face, no specific clothing, no hair. It's just an absence of detail. Pure, unsettling blackness in a shape.
But they do often have a recognizable human shape, right? It's not just like a blob. You see a head, a torso, maybe limbs.
Precisely. Generally, they appear in a human form.
Mm-hmm.
Discernible body, head, sometimes limbs. It's shaped like a person.
Okay.
But, and this is where it gets weird, despite this human-like outline, many accounts mention they seem semi-transparent.
Wait, transparent? How does that work if they're darker than dark?
It's a paradox, isn't it? People report being able to partially see through them, as if they're made of smoke or mist.
Mm-hmm.
Someone described it as blocking maybe 60 or 70% of what was behind it.
So a solid shape, but not entirely solid matter. That's deeply strange.
It defies conventional physics, yeah. It's unsettling.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Are there specific types of these shadow figures that keep popping up in reports? Like recurring characters in this global phenomenon?
Absolutely. There definitely are. And the most famous, or perhaps infamous, has to be the Hatman.
The Hatman, right. I've heard so many stories about him. Tell us more.
He's typically described as extremely tall. Like unnervingly tall, sometimes hunched over, maybe reaching the ceiling. We're talking potentially over 10 feet high in some accounts.
10 feet, wow.
Yeah. And his most defining feature, obviously, is the hat. Usually a wide-brimmed hat, people say like a fedora, or sometimes a top hat, even a gaucho hat occasionally. And sometimes he's seen wearing a cloak or a trench coat, too.
And the feeling people get from him?
Almost universally negative. A profound sense of evil, of malice. It's been pointed out, interestingly, that figures like Freddy Krueger, from Nightmare on Elm Street with his hat and menacing presence, might consciously or unconsciously draw from this deep-seated archetype of the Hatman. It shows how much this figure has permeated our collective psyche, our nightmares.
That makes a scary kind of sense. And what about those terrifying glowing eyes? That's another detail that crops up, isn't it? Elevating the dread.
Yes, absolutely. Some shadow figures, particularly the ones perceived as, malevolent, are reported to have these piercing eyes, usually red or yellow, glowing.
Ugh.
It's a stark contrast against their absolute blackness, right? And it just significantly heightens the fear, the sense of violation. It's an image that really sticks with witnesses.
I can only imagine. Are there other common forms besides the Hatman and the glowing-eyed ones?
Yeah, there are variations. Sometimes people report just a black mist, kind of formless, moving like a cloud of smoke. We also hear about these formidable black pillars, just static columns of darkness, or even swirling tornadoes of ink.
Tornadoes of ink, vivid description.
Yeah. And then there are rarer accounts, very small, almost childlike shadow people, which is disturbing in a whole different way.
Oh, wow. Child size.
Yeah. And one particularly unusual description that comes up occasionally is a solid white figure, like a statue, sometimes described as glowing slightly, or someone compared it to a jolly green giant, except like white. So the opposite of shadow, almost.
A white shadow, okay. The anomalies keep coming. Now, beyond just what they look like, how do these encounters typically start? Is it always, bam, shadow person in your face? Or more subtle?
Usually more subtle at first, anyway. Very often, their first glimpse, like we said, out of the corner of your eye, peripheral vision.
Like a flicker, a movement you weren't sure you saw.
Exactly. Sometimes called a peeper sighting, just a momentary disturbance in the background. But then they can manifest as full visual apparitions.
Yeah.
Directly in the person's line of sight.
And people are sure it's not a trick of the light then.
Witnesses often insist it was not some trick of shadow or a trick of the eye.
Yeah.
There was a well-known talk show host, Art Bell, who spoke about seeing one very clearly. In a well-lit room, he was adamant it was a real something and terrifying, not just an illusion.
Right, Art Bell. Coast to Coast AM, he talked about this stuff a lot. Okay, so what about the timing, the context? Is it always a nighttime thing, linked to sleep?
That's the common assumption, and certainly many sightings do happen when people are, drifting off to sleep or just waking up.
Sleep paralysis territory, hypnagogic hallucinations.
Exactly. Those states where the brain is partly conscious, partly dreaming, but the body is paralyzed, that can lead to incredibly vivid, often terrifying visions. The classic old hag syndrome, feeling crushed or suffocated by a presence, often ties into this.
Makes sense.
But the reality is far broader. Shadow people have been reported when people are wide awake, fully conscious. Even, surprisingly, in broad daylight.
Daylight sightings, that really changes things.
It does. It challenges that simple sleep-related explanation. We've heard accounts from people in their kitchens, living rooms, hallways, even outdoors, dark woods, cemeteries, across streets.
And not just at home.
No. There are reports from soldiers under extreme stress in wartime. Nurses working night shifts in hospitals, seeing them in corridors or patient rooms. It cuts across many environments.
And this is really compelling. What about multiple witnesses? Or even pets reacting? That must lend a lot of weight to the accounts.
It's a crucial point, absolutely. When multiple people see the same shadow figure simultaneously, well, it's harder to dismiss as individual hallucination, isn't it?
Right.
And pets. Dogs and cats often react first. Growling, barking, hissing, fur standing on end, staring intently at something their humans can't yet see.
Animals sensing things we don't.
It adds another layer of intrigue. It suggests there's something there that's detectable, even if it's beyond our normal perception. And they've even been seen in reflections, mirrors, picture frames, which is just dikely unsettling, like they're truly in our space.
Okay, so they can appear solid yet translucent, sometimes have glowing eyes, appear day or night, and multiple people and pets can see them. What about how they move or disappear? Is it gradual or more unnatural?
Their movement is often described as highly anomalous, really strange. They're known for sudden materializations and disappearances.
Just popping in and out.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
often vanishing into thin air, or described as being sucked into something suddenly, like reality just swallows them up.
Wow. Not just fading away.
Sometimes fading, but often abrupt. Their movement can be jerky or floating, almost gliding, sometimes described as moving like shadows, maybe flowing from one wall across to another, and sometimes they reportedly walk through solid objects, walls, doors.
Through walls. Okay.
Yeah. Some accounts even mention a weird visual effect as they disappear, like a little tiny bit of warp drive, or distorting reality momentarily, or that they went through a portal.
A portal. Maybe into mirrors. You mentioned reflections.
Intriguingly, yes. Some are seen specifically entering mirrors, as if using them as gateways. But often, they just stand motionless, observing. That silent, unblinking presence that just radiates dread.
Just watching, that's almost creepier than moving. And beyond just seeing them, what other sensations do people report? Does it engage other senses?
Yes, Definitely. A very common precursor, even before seeing anything, is an unshakable feeling, like you know you're being watched, or there's just a distinct presence in the room, often accompanied by intense dread or foreboding.
Goosebumps just thinking about it.
And then the temperature drop. A sudden coldness, a chilling touch sweeping through the space. Makes the hair on your arms stand up.
The classic cold spot.
Exactly. Witnesses might also hear things, sometimes subtle, like a light hum or buzzing or a whooshing sound. Other times, more distinct. Muffled footsteps when no one should be there, whispering. Even disembodied screaming or rattling sounds.
Whispers and screams. Terrifying. Any smells associated with them?
Occasionally, yes. The smell of sulfur, that brimstone smell, which often carries, demonic connotations for many people, it intensifies that feeling of something deeply unnatural and malevolent.
It all paints such a disturbing picture. The sight, the feeling, the sounds, the cold, maybe even a smell. What do you think this means? Have you, our listeners, seen them or felt these things? Share your story in the comments. We really want to know.
Yeah, these sensory details are so important. Now, what about physical contact? We've touched on the old hag, the pressure. But do these interactions ever get actively violent, beyond just observation?
Unfortunately, yes. In rare but genuinely terrifying instances, they seem to exert physical impact. Witnesses describe being grabbed, pushed, scratched.
Scratched, like leaving marks.
There are reports of that, yes. Also strangulation, or that oppressive weight on the chest, often during sleep paralysis, but sometimes when awake. There was one chilling account, I think, from Brazil. A man felt this overwhelming pressure on his chest, couldn't move, couldn't scream, felt like a very tall, dark figure just jumped right on him.
Horrifying.
Utterly helpless.
And another one, a professional wrestler, actually recounted physically wrestling with a shadow entity. Described it as having tremendous strength. He believed he was literally in the fight for my life.
Wrestling a shadow, that's intense.
Isn't it? And there are even reports of them affecting the physical environment directly. Light sources dimming as they pass through the beam, electronics malfunctioning, files disappearing from computers, AV equipment getting corrupted right when they appear. It suggests a tangible interaction with our world. Here on Midnight Whispers AI01, we always seek truth, even when it's this disturbing. These accounts of physical interaction affecting lights and electronics, they really challenge purely psychological explanations, don't they? Which brings us neatly into the theories. Let's start with the most common scientific one, sleep paralysis.
Right. The idea that this is mostly happening in that weird state between wakefulness and sleep, where your mind is active but your body is immobilized, leading to hallucinations. The old hag again.
Exactly. It's a prominent theory, and look, it almost certainly does account for a significant number of these experiences. During sleep paralysis, the brain can conjure incredibly vivid, realistic hallucinations, visual, auditory, even tactile, like feeling pressure.
So the brain is dreaming while you're partly awake.
Sort of. Dream mechanisms activate. And the old hag phenomenon, feeling that crushing weight, seeing a figure's suffocation, fits perfectly with the physical sensations of paralysis and breathing changes in that state. Brain chemistry plays a role too. Deficits in neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, they can influence mood, fear, making these experiences more likely or intense. It makes sense that many people being built pretty much the same way biologically might have similar hallucinatory experiences under these conditions.
Okay, so that explains some cases, maybe even many, but what about the ones that don't fit?
That's the crux of it. This theory gets significantly challenged by those accounts we mentioned, people seeing shadow figures when they're wide awake, fully alert, even in broad daylight.
Right, the daylight sightings, and multiple witnesses.
And multiple witnesses seeing the same thing, and pets reacting. Sleep paralysis is an individual experience. It doesn't explain shared sightings or animals freaking out. So it's part of the picture, maybe, but not the whole picture.
So if it's not always just sleep paralysis, what about our eyes? Peripheral vision being unreliable, the brain filling in gaps.
That's another skeptical argument, yeah. Our peripheral vision is designed mainly to detect movement, not fine detail. So the idea is you see a flicker, an ordinary shadow moves, maybe something mundane, and your brain, lagging clear data, fills in the blanks and interprets it as a humanoid figure.
Especially in low light conditions, maybe.
Exactly. It could explain some of those fleeting peeper sightings at the edge of vision, the brain making assumptions. But again, this doesn't really hold up for the full visual apparitions. When someone sees a distinct figure clearly directly in front of them and they're adamant it wasn't a trick of the light, peripheral vision doesn't cover that.
Okay. What about psychological state? Stress, trauma. Does being in a vulnerable state make you more likely to see them? Art Bell linked his sighting to staring at a computer monitor for hours, that prolonged focus.
There seems to be a strong correlation, yes. High levels of stress, emotional turmoil, trauma, things like illness, financial worries, divorce, grief, job loss. These states are often linked to increased reports of shadow people encounters.
Why would that be?
Well, one theory is that these negative emotions might attract these entities, or maybe even provide a kind of energy for them if you lean towards paranormal explanations. From a psychological view, extreme stress can certainly affect perception and potentially lead to hallucinations or misperceptions.
And the prolonged focus idea, like Art Bell or maybe even tribal practices.
Right. It's theorized that certain altered states of consciousness, whether induced by prolonged, intense focus like staring at a screen, or through rhythmic activities like drumming or trance dancing used in some cultures, might change how we perceive reality, maybe allowing individuals to glimpse things at different vibratory levels, opening a crack into unseen dimensions, perhaps.
Interesting. What about children? They report seeing things all the time. Imaginary friends, monsters under the bed. Could shadow people be part of that, tied to their developing minds?
That's definitely considered. For young children, their understanding of reality, social skills, object permanence, it's all still developing. So interactions with invisible or imaginary entities could be part of that process. Scientists might suggest they're confusing imaginary friends with real ones.
Makes sense from a developmental perspective.
But then you have the other side. Some paranormal theorists propose that babies and young children might actually perceive a broader spectrum of reality than adults. Maybe they can see beyond visible light, or their pineal gland, often mystically called the third eye, hasn't fully calcified or atrophied yet, giving them a window into things adults filter out.
The third eye theory. Always intriguing. So many possibilities just on the psychological and physiological side. What do you, our listeners, think? Is it brain chemistry, stress, sleep states, or something else? Let us know in the comments.
Okay, so if it's not always psychological, if these experiences sometimes defy those explanations, where do we look next? The paranormal. Supernatural interpretations. Are we talking ghosts, demons, something else entirely? This is where the theories get really wide-ranging and often much more unsettling. One common belief is that they are ghosts, spirits of the deceased.
Just regular spirits, but appearing as shadows. Why?
Maybe they're trapped, stuck in some in-between space, not fully crossed over. Perhaps their appearance as dark shadows signifies something about their state, maybe negative energy, torment, or unfinished business from their lives. Or maybe they were just malevolent people.
So the shadow form reflects their spiritual state.
That's one interpretation. Another related idea is residual energy. Not a conscious spirit, but more like an energetic imprint, a recording of a past traumatic event embedded in a location.
Like the stone tape theory.
Exactly. The idea that certain environments, maybe places with lots of quartz or limestone, can somehow record intense emotional events, and these recordings can replay under certain conditions perceived by sensitive individuals as apparitions, sounds, or maybe even shadow figures. This often links them to traditional hauntings, poltergeist activity, objects moving, lights dimming.
But what about the truly malevolent encounters? The physical attacks, the choking, that overwhelming feeling of pure evil people report. That sounds like more than just a trapped spirit or an energy recording. It sounds predatory.
And that leads directly to a much darker and very common theory that they are demons, or some kind of purely evil, non-human entity.
Demons feeding on fear.
Precisely. The idea is that they are energy vampires. They intentionally provoke fear, anger, depression, unhappiness, because they feed on those negative emotions, especially the adrenaline surge from a fight or flight response. That's their sustenance.
So they attack or terrify people to get an emotional reaction.
That's the theory. The physical attacks, the choking, that horrifying feeling of dread, even the sulfur smell, these all fit neatly into the profile of demonic entities, as described in many traditions. They're seen as parasitic beings harvesting human emotional energy.
And the Hatman, where does he fit in this demonic theory? He seems particularly feared.
Indeed. The Hatman is frequently associated directly with demonic forces, sometimes even equated with the devil himself or a high-ranking demon. His allurances are often seen as a particularly bad omen, predicting personal tragedy, bad luck, illness, or some people even interpret his increasing sightings as portents of larger apocalyptic events.
That account you mentioned earlier, the man communicating telepathically with the Hatman who threatened his son, that sounds incredibly manipulative and intelligent, not just a mindless force.
Exactly. It suggests a calculating, malevolent will behind the shadows. a conscious evil. It's why his appearances are taken so seriously in paranormal circles. And here on Midnight Whispers AI01, we always seek truth, and sometimes the truth points towards truly dark possibilities.
It's also fascinating how these ideas connect to much older beliefs. You mentioned Rosemary Ellen Guiley's work linking shadow people to the jinn from Islamic mythology. Can you expand on that?
Yes. Guiley, who is a very respected researcher, proposed that many shadow people encounters, especially the more interactive and intelligent ones, align very well with descriptions of the jinn, or jinn.
What are jinns exactly?
In Islamic lore, they're supernatural beings created by God from smokeless and scorching fire. They exist alongside humans, but are usually invisible. They have free will, can be good or evil, and crucially, they are master shapeshifters.
Shapeshifters, so they could appear as shadows.
Precisely. Guiley suggested that taking on large, shadowy forms is one of their common manifestations. They're believed to be able to influence or even possess humans, especially those in a weakened state, emotionally vulnerable, depressed. And yes, they are said to feed off human life force or energy.
So the energy vampire idea connects here too. What about the Hatman's hat, according to Guiley?
She had an interesting take. She speculated the hat might be used to cover deformities, as jinn, when their disguise slips, can apparently appear quite malformed or rumbly, especially around the head. She also suggested that other phenomena, like black-eyed children, might be another form the jinn take, using different tactics to approach humans and harvest energy.
Wow, an ancient explanation for a modern terror. This also makes you wonder, if they're not ghosts, not demons, maybe not jinn, what about other dimensions? Parallel realities?
That's another major theory, driven by their bizarre physics appearing and disappearing suddenly, walking through walls.
The warp drive effect you mentioned.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It suggests they aren't bound by our physical laws. So the idea is they are entities from another dimension or a parallel reality that sometimes intersects or overlaps with ours. Maybe the veil between these dimensions thins at certain times or places.
Allowing them to slip through.
Or maybe just become perceptible to us momentarily. Their ability to just phase in and out, move through solid objects, vanish instantly. It fits well with the idea of something existing on a different plane. Some even theorize mirrors could act as portals, literal gateways between these realities.
How are they visitors then? Observers?
Perhaps cosmic neighbors studying us, as one theorist put it, like humans observing animals in the wild. It's interesting that modern theoretical physics, like string theory, does postulate the existence of extra dimensions beyond our familiar three spatial ones.
Although those are usually mathematical constructs, right?
They are, but the idea resonates deeply with much older shamanic beliefs found across cultures, beliefs in multiple levels of existence, spirit worlds, other realities that coexist with ours. And we do get those rare, very strange reports of witnesses seeing multiple shadow figures apparently interacting with each other, suggesting maybe a whole society or network existing parallel to us.
A whole society of shadow people. Chilling. Ghosts, demons, jinn, interdimensional beings. So many possibilities. What do you listeners think this means? Where do you lean? Have you seen them? Let us know in the comments.
It's also really striking how universal this is. We're not talking about a localized legend. Shadow people are reported in essentially every culture on Earth, and the reports go back thousands of years.
Right, it's not a new phenomenon born of the internet age. The consistency across time and cultures is maybe one of the most compelling aspects. It suggests a shared human experience or a persistent external phenomenon.
Absolutely. Look at the parallels. In Islamic tradition, you have the jinn we just discussed. Go to Native American lore, the Choctaw talk about the Nalusa Cheeto, the soul eater or a great black being. A tall, dark, man-like shadow feared for devouring souls if you harbor evil thoughts.
Soul eater. Terrifying.
And the elusive Felia, another figure, a long black being from the woods that torments people. But then contrast that with the Hopi tradition, where some shadow beings are seen as ancestral spirits, visiting during times of need to offer wisdom or protection. So not always malevolent in all traditions.
Interesting. A duality there. What about Europe?
European folklore is rich with similar figures. The Mara, for instance, is the root of our word nightmare. A demon said to sit on your chest, trying to strangle you in your sleep. Sound familiar?
Very familiar, like sleep paralysis and the old hag.
Exactly. And in medieval times, there were accounts of phantom monks described as black, moving shadows, often hooded, sometimes with glowing eyes, radiating creepiness or even anger. Go back even further, 5,000 years to the Sumerians, they spoke of the Alu, a night entity that searched for sleeping victims to paralyze, possess, or induce a coma. The parallels are uncanny.
And it's not just folklore, right? There are historical accounts involving real figures, like the Lincoln story.
Indeed. That account of Abraham Lincoln seeing his own doppelganger, described as a spectral, pale, transparent duplicate of himself in a mirror shortly before his assassinations, is often cited. His wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, who was quite spiritual, immediately saw it as a terrible omen.
And sadly, she was right.
Tragically, yes. It highlights how these figures have sometimes been interpreted as harbingers, omens of fate. There's also the legend of the Black Shuck in parts of England, a large spectral black dog with fiery eyes, also seen as an omen of death or misfortune. Similar theme, different form.
The consistency is just mind-boggling. Across continents, across millennia. What do you think this historical consistency means? Have you encountered similar figures from your own cultural folklore? Tell us in the comments.
Okay, so if we accept, even hypothetically, that these entities might be real, interacting with us, sometimes malevolently, the big question becomes, what can you do? Are there any defenses, any remedies reported to work against them, or are people just helpless? It's a critical question for anyone who's had a frightening encounter. While there's no single guaranteed magic bullet, and some reports suggest entities can build resistance, several strategies are commonly reported to help. One major category involves light and electricity.
Light, even though they are shadows.
It seems counterintuitive, but yes. Turning on lights, or even leaving lights, televisions, computers on, is believed by many to disrupt their ability to manifest or remain present. The idea is that the light itself, or the electrical and electromagnetic fields generated by these devices, creates an environment that's unfavorable or disruptive to them.
Pushing them back.
Exactly, sort of scrambling their signal maybe.
Yeah.
It makes sense if they are beings of shadow or negative energy, that light and active energy fields would be repellent.
And you mentioned earlier they can affect light sources, like dimming a nightlight. That suggests a real interaction there.
It does. That witness account of the nightlight dimming as the figure passed through it, then coming back on, it implies light can be both affected by them and used against them. It's a two-way street.
Okay, besides light and electricity, what else?
Spiritual or religious approaches are very commonly cited as effective, drawing on one's faith.
Prayer, calling on higher powers.
Yes. Praying, invoking divine figures, Jesus, Mary, saints, God, depending on the person's belief system, or reciting specific prayers or verses from holy texts, like the Quran for Muslims facing jinn-like entities. There are numerous accounts, really dramatic ones sometimes, of people literally screaming prayers to break free from a physical attack or feeling of oppression.
And it works. They report the entity releasing them or disappearing.
Often, yes. The power of faith, or perhaps the focused positive energy generated by fervent prayer, seems to act as a potent repellent in many cases.
What about changing the energetic environment in other ways? You mentioned music earlier.
Some people have found that playing certain types of music helps. Classical music often comes up, the idea being it settles the mind, creates a harmonious atmosphere, and maybe raises the vibrational level of the space, making it less hospitable to negative entities.
Raising the vibration. Interesting concept.
Others suggest even just having background noise, like rock music playing low or a shortwave radio tuned to static, can disrupt the environment enough to interfere with their presence, creating a kind of energetic static or white noise.
So, filling the space with sound energy. And what about our own internal state? Our emotions? If they feed on fear, can we fight back emotionally?
This is a really key point, according to many experiencers and researchers.
Yes.
Actively changing your emotional response can be a powerful defense.
How so?
Summoning what's sometimes called righteous anger. Getting truly indignant about being attacked or invaded, and forcefully, mentally or verbally, ordering the entity to leave. Projecting a strong sense of, you have no right, get out.
Like sending out a wave of forceful energy.
Exactly, like a pulse wave, as one person described it, asserting your sovereignty, your boundaries. Since the prevailing theory is that they feed on negative emotions like fear, terror, depression, hopelessness. If you refuse to give them that fear reaction.
You cut off their food source.
Essentially, yes. If you can manage, in that terrifying moment, to replace fear with anger or even just neutrality or defiance, they may lose interest or be unable to sustain their presence. Building strong personal boundaries, maybe through therapy or spiritual practice to address underlying fear or trauma, is also seen as a long-term deterrent. Don't give them the energetic foothold they need.
Fascinating. Controlling the inner landscape to affect the outer encounter. What do you listeners think about these defenses? Have any of you tried these methods? Did they work? Share your experiences and thoughts in the comments.
Now, it's also important to touch on what generally doesn't seem to work or might even be counterproductive. Trying to fight them physically, for instance.
Like using a weapon, a gun.
Yeah, that's considered pretty much useless. Given their often semi-transparent, seemingly non-physical nature, bullets would likely just pass right through them. Same goes for throwing objects. Reports usually say things just go through them with no effect. It reinforces that they aren't operating under normal physical rules.
So physical confrontation is out. What about directly confronting them visually, staring back, yelling at them without that righteous anger focus?
It's a mixed bag. Sometimes making direct eye contact or yelling might startle the entity, causing it to momentarily retreat or flicker. But other accounts suggest that directly engaging it, especially from a place of fear, can actually make it manifest more clearly, become more terrifying, or even invite a stronger interaction. It might solidify its presence.
So it could backfire.
It potentially could, yes.
Yeah.
Ultimately, deciding how to react, how to address these encounters, it really depends on the individual's personal beliefs, the specific nature of the experience, and their own inner resolve. There's no one-size-fits-all answer when dealing with something so strange and personal. Here on Midnight Whispers AI01, we always seek truth, acknowledging that the path forward in these situations is often deeply individual.
As we start to wrap up tonight's deep dive, this intense exploration into the world of shadow people, one huge question just hangs in the air, doesn't it? If they're not just shadows, if they're not just dreams or hallucinations, if they're perceived across millennia, by cultures across the globe, by children and soldiers in daylight and darkness, then what are they?
It remains one of the most profound mysteries in the realm of the paranormal.
And perhaps the most chilling thought. Are they watching you right now?
Hmm.
All right, let's try and step back from the edge of the void now. Take a breath.
Yeah, probably a good idea after all that.
We hope you made it through without, turning on every single light in the house.
Oh, checking over your shoulder constantly.
Right. And just to try and lighten the mood a tiny bit, here's a quick one. Why don't shadow people ever attend therapy?
Oh boy, where's this going?
Because they refuse to come into the light.
Okay, that's suitably dark humor for the topic.
We had to try. We'll start now before they get offended. Seriously, though, thank you again, truly, for being part of our strange and very curious community here.
We appreciate every single listener.
We really do. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Join us every week. We post new deep dives on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and we have this little dream, maybe a big dream, of reaching 500 subscribers by the end of July.
With your help, maybe we can make it happen.
We know we can do it. Remember, truth is always out there. You just need to know where to look.
Keep questioning, keep exploring.
Stay curious, stay alert, and never stop seeking answers. You've been listening to a chilling deep dive from Midnight Whispers AI01.
We'll be back soon with more.
We'll see you soon. Until then,
Bye, Jose.
watch the shadows and take care.